Join us as we enjoy and be inspired in our favorite INC original music.
Here on Saturday Music Jam, every Saturdays at 2 p.m.
Saturday Music Jam.
Saturday Music Jam.
Saturday Music Jam.
Ito ang INCRadio, DZEM 954, ang tinig ng katotohanan, himpilan ng Iglesia ni Cristo, sumasahimpapawid mula sa Quezon City.
Let's open our devices and listen now. Let's have some fun, and this is how. As we have our INC radio podcast playing, we will have so much fun listening. INC Radio Podcast, we're here to hear.
Hello, good day, good morning, everyone. Hello, podcast family, and welcome to episode 6 of our season on Beyond Conformity. You are tuning in to INC Radio Podcast, the podcast that resonates with you. I am one of your hosts, Chloe.
And Angelica.
And LJ, and we are so thankful that you're here with us today. And today's episode is going to be about consumer detox. So, Ate Angelica, what is consumer detox?
So, consumer detox refers to a period of time where individuals cut back from unnecessary spending in order to regain control of their finances. And then doing so serves multiple purposes, some of which are to create healthier consumption habits, save money, and or to reduce environmental impact.
Awesome. Now, before we delve deeper into this topic, we want to introduce to you our podcast episode question for today. So for all of our live viewers, please feel free to leave your answers in the live chat. And for those who will be viewing our lovely episode after it has aired, please feel free to share with us your response to our question at podcast@incradio.net. So for our podcast question for today, what are strategies that you have implemented to cut back on spending?
Oh, good question. And of course, we are live today, so make sure you put it in the live chat so that we can see your comments. Now, of course, your answers don't need to be complicated. It can be something as simple as maybe packing your lunch instead of going out or making meals at home, all of that. Isn't that right at the LJ?
Exactly. And it also saves you a little bit more money too. Especially if you're doing takeout, it's a lot of money when you think about it at the end of the week. So
Exactly. How about you, Angelica?
I definitely agree. And I think that throughout our days, there's little things that we can do, little changes that we can make to really cut back on any unnecessary spending that we do. Now, before we head off into our discussion, we'd like to already give our special thanks. We'd like to give our special thanks to Ka Angela Ranyo Manalo, our CEBSI president and CEO. And most of all, we would like to thank our dearest executive minister, Ka Eduardo V. Manalo. We love you, po. Now, before we head off to our main discussion and talk about the topic deeper, I just wanted to first start off with what is the ongoing trend surrounding consumerism. So current consumerism trends are actually emphasizing sustainability, minimalism, and digital shopping with a preference for more personalized and also health-conscious products. And then influences for this are coming from social media and also economic factors, which are really shaping consumer behavior towards value-conscious choices. So before we actually delve into, what are the signs of this, signs that may indicate that someone might need a consumer detox, first off, what role does our faith play when it comes to participating in this trend where we're currently emphasizing sustainability, minimalism, and things like that?
Ooh, that's a very good question. I think in terms of our faith, we always we always try to focus on nothing too materialistic. We instead of focusing on the material things of this world, we of course focus on performing our duties and showing more love and giving honor and glory to our Almighty God. So focusing more on our spiritual life rather than the things of this world, which might be temporary. Of course, the things that we buy, they're not going to be lasting forever. So it's sort of a mindset thing rather than a physical thing to do. How about you, LJ? What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And a lot of the times too, when I think about when I'm spending something, or for example, when I'm buying a dress or buying clothing, let's say like a piece of clothing, a lot of the times, I would buy clothing, that I would actually use for church. Something that it'll be useful in order for you to serve our Almighty God. So it's nothing just, like what Angelica said, it's not just about a lot of the influences that social media has on us, and that'll also stray us away from unnecessary spending that might happen in order for us to you know be able to lessen that consumerism that we were talking about earlier. So yeah, and
Okay.
I
And I
think
think
we're
Go
sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to add on to your point at the LJ, and also at the Chloe. So when we're talking about really cutting back on spending, and we're really focusing on not living a materialistic life, one of the things that is really important, or it comes with cutting back on spending, is the concept of really having gratitude, where when we're cutting back on making unnecessary spending choices, we realize that we actually have so much already, and there's so much to be grateful for.
It's like that contentment, right? Like we don't need to have so much stuff, that's a really good point actually, is being content. I know it's hard sometimes that whatever influences that we have around social media and advertisement and stuff like that, sometimes it might be hard to try not to buy those things, which basically goes into kind of our next question is, what are some common signs or behaviors that indicate someone might need a consumer detox? So like what of the things that we already said is that frequent impulsive buying, like what I said with advertisement. I know for a fact on my social media I see a lot of maybe helpful things, like I guess life hacks type, things that you can use to make things easier to do, like let's say for cooking, because I'm someone who cooks a lot. So it might be like little things like that would maybe make your life easier when you're separating eggs, for example, like egg yolks and like egg whites. I see a lot of that one. But I'm like, it's just as simple as like not getting carried away, not being influenced by those things. And I know sometimes ads can be pretty effective in what they use.
Yeah,
So
especially with the algorithm now in social media, it
exactly
really
that too.
it really caters to what you're interested in. So for me, it's a lot of like organizing and stationery, all
Hmm.
the planners and all the diaries. Whereas I already have one, I don't need to buy another one, even though sometimes you look at it and you see, oh, it's a really pretty diary.
Or
Maybe
it's
one
really
wouldn't
cute.
hurt. Or like books, I'm
Mhm.
very guilty with the books.
And I think like one of the things that I know me and at the LG have talked about is sometimes you end up buying something just because it's on sale. And so
Hmm.
also important to make sure that even though it's on sale, even though you are saving money by purchasing that product, to make sure that it's really necessary. And just to actually add more onto my answer for the question, another sign that someone may need a consumer detox is neglecting essential needs. So we might go into a grocery store, um, and we might have, let's just say, like our shopper list, so things
Hmm.
that we actually need to buy. And sometimes we go into that store and we get so caught up on all these other items that we can purchase, and we end up buying everything else besides what we actually intended to buy.
Hmm.
So that's just one of the signs that may indicate someone might need a consumer detox.
Yeah, that's why it's nice to have a like an actual grocery list. I was talking before we started the show. I was telling Chloe and Angelica that nowadays that one of the things I actually do when I go into a grocery store is I'll actually have a literal written grocery list, just so that along the way, I like to tick it off, the boxes that, I got this already. And yes, like what Ate Angelica said with the whole sale thing, I think that's that's one of the big ones for groceries, is that, when you see something on sale, especially with how much um items are nowadays, or like just food in general, is very expensive, especially with inflation and all that stuff. So definitely, if you really just think about it, if you really really need it, or also like in terms of food or groceries, are you going to be using this within the next few days, or are you just going to be keeping it in your fridge and letting it go bad eventually, right? So
And just
Yeah,
to add on to like
definitely.
the whole grocery thing, one of the things I moved recently, so I've been learning how to live independently. One of the things that I have been reminded is try to make use of the ingredients that you already have.
mm-hmm,
So whatever recipes you want to make, whatever you want to um, cook, try to already go with what you have, so that way you're not wasting any ingredients.
mm-hmm. Or
Yeah.
something like that's similar recipes that
Mhm.
will eventually also use the same ingredients.
Yeah,
So that's also one of the
exactly.
things that you can do.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like, I guess when you're planning for recipes like that, it's not okay, today I want to make like a pasta or some sort, and then
Mm-hmm.
the next day it's sushi, but they're completely different set of ingredients, which means that you have
Yeah.
to buy for recipes every day. So rather than doing that, sort of organizing it a little bit better, maybe, oh, I can use like cream cheese for Monday, Wednesday, Friday to make these kinds of things, so that by the end of the week, it's all sort of, you've used up all the ones that at least will go bad quite quickly, not the ones that will last a long time, like the dry ingredient stuff, like pasta. But yeah, we're gonna start talking about food. We're gonna get distracted. But I think another sign is cluttered living spaces. I think I've been guilty of this one actually, even though you see this in the background and it seems so like organized. Like there are times when it's hard to like let go of a certain thing. For example, like a notebook, because you're like, oh, I have so many memories, even though it's not really in your like you're not really making use of it anymore. And so you're tempted to go buy other things. And so it's a good mindset to have, to like maybe trade one. So if I'm going to buy a book, maybe I'll donate some books off to the local library, or so that there's a net, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a neutral number of things in your room at a given time. It's
Mm,
not like all cluttering up, stacking up on top of each other. So that it's your room's all organized.
yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask that to Chloe. I don't know. Oh, also Angelica. If I'm not sure if it's popular there in Australia or there in America or in the U.S., but here in specifically where I live in Manitoba, a few houses would have like a literal library outside of their house. So you would
Yeah.
put in an old book and then you would take one from there. So that's one of the other good, kind of a way to recycle new things, and also be able to get new items as well, but in a way that you're not necessarily making a purchase.
Mhm.
Exactly. I think we can go on to our next question. So, how can individuals cultivate mindfulness in their purchasing habits? So, this is more of like a mindset. I think I've said that so many times already. A lot of the mindsets. Angelica, let's start with you.
I think for me, especially now, one of the most important things is sticking to my budget. You don't want to go over your budget. Especially as a student, we have a limited amount of money to spend for the needs that we have. And so we have to make it work. And I think it also teaches us discipline as well, when it comes to our spending habits. So, you know, being mindful of what we are spending our money on, and if it's really important and it's really necessary. One of the things I actually do practice, I think I go over like 24 hours doing this, but I spend more than one day thinking about a purchase. If it's something like, even something as simple as shoes, let's just say, if I'm buying a pair of shoes, I think about it for a couple days, and I also compare prices of different other shoes that I might want. Let's just say if I'm getting flats, like what other types of flats are being sold out there? Are there cheaper options that might be better? So I think that when you wait, especially this goes for online shopping, if you really wait and you think about it before you actually buy it, it will help you to not make impulsive purchases. What about you, Adalje?
Yeah, and especially also think about if you really, really need it. So like what I said earlier, you gotta put you gotta invest your money, or you gotta buy your money into something that's actually worth using. So like what I was saying earlier, when it comes to clothing, a lot of the times when I do go shopping, it's either, a dress that I could actually use for maybe for work, or also at church at the same time, make or when you're making a purchase, also like think about if it's going to be multi-purpose use, right? It's also one of the things that might be um a good thing to think about. Like what I said earlier, making a shopping list or a grocery list is a really, really great way to go. And also maybe look at how lately what I've been doing is I'm actually looking at how much I earn in a paycheck and how much I'm spending. So if you're going above how much you are gaining, then you're obviously doing something wrong there, because you're going above, what's coming in into your account, or to your paycheck. So that's one of the things that I've been kind of doing right now is I'm definitely putting away, little bits of money every few paychecks, so that I set a budget of like $25. That's how much I'm gonna put away every paycheck. So right now, I recently only started, but I was looking at it, and as I saw it grow, and I was like, I feel really accomplished, because I was like, I really like knowing that I have money put away. And I know it's just gonna stay put there, and I'm really trying not to spend it, even though I know it's in my savings.
Keep it locked up. No, like
Yeah.
that's a really good way to look at like your savings account. It's really satisfying to see.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's just like I tend to ask myself, for example, I'm really into buying books right now. Like
Mm.
that's my thing. And I guess social media knows, and my algorithm is just all books, all bookstores. My mindset is, do I want it or do I actually need it?
Mm.
And I also apply Angelica's 24-hour rule. It's if I still think about it in the next day, then I'll consider buying it. It's
Mm.
just like the thing with consumer detox is the aim of it is to just slow down your purchases. So it helps you to budget more, and it also helps you to not be so cluttered up in your space, but also it teaches you a lot of self-discipline. I've learned.
Mm-hmm.
um
Right.
so you'd want to have the self-control to not be so easily won over by
Mm.
whatever the ads say on social media. Yeah, it really is a mindset thing. And it doesn't mean that it's bad to like splurge every once in a while. Like for example, if it's my birthday, I can
Right.
celebrate by like buying myself a gift.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it's something that I've wanted for a long time, or if it's for a special occasion, then I'm happy. Like you don't have to be so stingy all the time. It's just I think it's just being a bit more careful with where you spend and how you spend your money. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right, right. And I think that the whole thing with going slow about it too is really important, because if you're someone who likes to buy a lot of things, let's just say you really like shopping and it's something that you really do enjoy, it's important that when you're setting goals, you start little by little, because sometimes if you set overly high expectations, let's just say you're used to going shopping a lot and you're like, you know what, I'm just going to stop shopping completely, then that's just an unrealistic goal, and you might fall into even more habits of like impulsive buying. So it's
Mm-hmm.
important to be realistic with your goals and how you're disciplining yourself financially. So when it comes to disciplining ourselves, right, a lot of the times we do it by differentiating between our needs and our wants. So how do we do this when practicing consumer detox?
Actually, I wanted to add which also goes to this question, is that earlier Ate Chloe was saying about the decluttering spaces and all that stuff, and also having that attachment with your items sometimes. That's why it's hard for you to let go or declutter. So a few years back, I was actually having a hard time letting go of all the clothes that I had, and eventually I got so sick of it because I couldn't fit it in my closet anymore. And I was like, you know what, I laid it all out, and then I eventually put them in piles where, because here where I live, there's actually like thrift stores that you can actually sell your clothes to, and then they'll give it another life. Someone else could buy it off, and we'll be able to use it. So I separated into piles that, something that I could still sell. There's a pile where, it's going to go straight to donation, and there's piles where I can give it to, my friends or family that might want it as well, just so that, it's not going into waste, where to a point where, it's just sitting in your closet where you're not wearing it. So I'm proud of myself for making that choice, because now my my closet is a lot smaller, and I'm recycling through my clothes. I'm wearing them more often, and especially with even just decluttering. Take a look at it. If you haven't used it in like a month, are you really going to use it in the next month again, or in the next few days? Think about, I guess you could also put that in the 24-hour rule, if anything. If you haven't used it in a while, then maybe it's time to let it go. And I know sometimes it's hard, when you have that attachment with your with your items, especially I know at the Chloe's books, but I'm sure you can find like a PDF somewhere.
You're laughing.
That's what I've been doing with the books. I've been wanting to buy books, but I'm just like, but if there's a PDF copy of it, then I'll just read it
Yeah.
for free.
I can just send it
For me,
over to LJ. I'll just send over all
Yeah.
my books.
for
Oh,
me with books, I feel like I haven't been able to justify actually spending money on books. I've just been going to the library, so that's me.
That's also a
that's
good
such a good hack.
thing.
That's such a good hack. I
Yeah.
actually have a lot of books from the library now, and it's really useful, especially if you want to save money, and especially because here in Australia, it's actually hard to get some of the books that I like. So for example, it's hard to find books from like international authors, and you'd pay like
Mm.
twice, three times the amount, but then you'd have them at your local library, and of course you just want to borrow. But I guess final tips and tricks, identify your essentials, make sure that you have them all, like have your shopping list, but it's your essential list. It's going to stay consistent every single week. That's what you're going to buy, maybe every month. And evaluate its usefulness, its utility. You want something that's important to you and that you're not just going to use like one time only and then that's it. But yeah, it really is just about slowing down, um, trying to be a little bit more mindful with where we spend our money, because especially in this economy, that's my
Mm-hmm.
that's
It's
my
expensive.
that's my phrase now. It's in this economy, it's so hard to try and budget everything when everything is so expensive. So those little tips and tricks is really good, and also just avoiding buying too much too often. I guess that's where the whole like when you're feeling sad, then you go buy like a dress, or when I'm feeling anxious, then I go buy some shoes.
I
Take a
guess
time,
taking
be a
away
little bit
your
more slow.
emotions.
Yeah, exactly. Or like, redirect it to something else. Maybe do a little bit of like household chores, or wash your clothes, or like cook. Other ways
Mhm.
to relax is really useful. But yeah, it's I guess my main takeaway is just be a little bit more slow, more how do you say it? More intentional with your spending.
Mm.
Yeah. How
Mhm.
Yeah.
about you, Angelica?
I think besides what all of you said so far, one of the things is reflecting on the purpose of it. Because sometimes there are some things I know sometimes people might tend to try to find the cheapest item, but it actually won't be used for a long time. And then you'll be using it consistently, right? So you want to consider the long term value, how often you're actually going to use this. And so sometimes it might be better, let's just say, to actually purchase a higher quality item rather than something that's really cheap, because on the long run you'd be saving more money. So differentiating between what you really need, because if you're going to be using it often, then it's more of a need than a want. Another thing that, like what you guys said earlier, is examining emotional triggers. So why are you actually purchasing this item? Is it because you're bored, because you're stressed? Are you actually just trying to reward yourself? So those are just things to keep in mind when we are making purchases. And I think the last point that I want to make is analyzing your budget. So trying to figure out where your money is actually going and determining whether it's necessary for your money to be going towards that purchase.
Thanks.
Mhm. And I wanted to add one more thing is I know for when we do go buy stuff like online or we go in store to buy stuff, sometimes they'll ask for your email and then you get opt into like promotional emails and all that stuff. I know my email is full of those type of things. So maybe one of the things that you can do is maybe unsubscribe or unfollow, make sure you declutter your digital space, by unsubscribing or unfollowing those type of promotional emails or like branding on social media, because that'll also kind of reduce your temptation to like make that impulse purchase when you didn't really need it at that time, like what they said earlier. But you know what, time is going by so quickly, and I actually there's so many people on the comments there, but thank you to all of our viewers and listeners who are all over there and supporting our show today. But we're going to go off to our Christian value takeaway, which is working towards eliminating our unnecessary expenses isn't solely about financial gain. It also provides us with a way to grow spiritually. In a world full of trends and social norms that encourages materialistic tendencies, it is our faith that ultimately serves as our guide and keeps us grounded.
Let's remember that as Christians, we should always be grateful for what we have, keeping in mind that everything that we have comes from God. It's important that we always put our faith first, finding contentment and fulfillment in God. In the way that we live, our pursuit in this life should always be towards spiritual riches rather than worldly wealth. And through striving towards a humble and mindful way of living, we can truly live a life that gives glory to our Almighty God.
And as we conclude today's episode, we'd like to extend our thanks to you, our podcast family, especially in the live chat. Thanks for sticking with us throughout this episode. And we hope you all learned a little bit, a little something from us today. And we hope that you will always be looking forward to what we have in store for the rest of this season, the seasons that are coming, so that we can keep growing in faith together, one INC Radio podcast at a time.
And as always, we love hearing from you, our lovely listeners. So please reach out to us for any comments, any questions, or even any suggestions via our Telegram at 0964-243-7380, or even via our email at podcasts@incradio.net. Because here on INC Radio Podcast, we're here to hear. See you guys next time. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. We hope you do your consumer detox this week. See you.
Bye, everyone.
Open our devices and listen now. Let's have some fun, and this is how. As we have our INC radio podcast playing, we will have so much fun listening. INC Radio Podcast, we're here to hear.
Now that the academic year 2023 to 2024 is about to end, let's take a look back on how we spent our 6 years with our classmates. Join our episode at INC